I hate it when that happens. You get all this great information pouring out and having to rewind and find it. Could you go through those types of complexity again?
Yeah, there is this kind of horizontal complexity where you basically consolidate the functions across the enterprise. So growing highly effective cross-functional teams. That's a nice example on consolidating this kind of functions across and horizontal complexity. If we then talk about vertical complexity, it's more about shedding obsolete roles, layers, and reporting structures. So, roles that are there to mainly coordinate or report or things that are non-value added activities, for example. So remove many of those roles so that you become more lean and practical. And then removing the tremendous amount of bureaucracy, which is initiating lots of this ad hoc meetings all over the place, which is requiring a tremendous amount of reporting documents and so forth. So also there, try to remove this thing. This would be the vertical complexity. Clear for those two? Yeah. Then the third one is something that is strange as less trainer to announce, by the way. So because unless we have collocated teams, but then again, I'm already into distributed work since my ACFA career, because we had 5 sites in Europe, so you immediately go dislocated basically. So I've had it's more than 20 years of experience in that domain. So this the challenge that we had in March 2020 when everything went full remote was actually something I liked. So to be challenged, figuring out all those things. By now we did figure it out, so it's still workable. I think I do believe, and that's why I also believe in less in the rules and collocated. I do believe collocation and being with the same team members in the same room is going to be more effective. But then again, in today's world, I also help removing the spatial complexity by enabling remote and full remote, distributed, dislocated, or full remote work in organizations. Well, that's the spatial one. And then the fourth one that I mentioned was the technical complexity. And I hope I don't need to explain this too much. That's the technical depth, lousy architectures, most probably because of scope that is being pushed into teams with a fixed deadline and so forth. So they built some misery on top of that. So removing the misery slowly, of course. Setting up the right technical practices in refinement, by the way, but also, so how do we think about growing new features, basically? How do we then start growing those new features with code and automated testing, living documentation, decent build pipelines? And in build pipelines, I can go pretty hard, by the way. So for example, if people commit code and some of the tests fail, which we identified as those are the ones that are good enough, which we finally really need to look at. If one of those tests fail, then they get, for example, 2 hours to fix it. If it's not fixed, the code is reverted. So you can automate this kind of stuff. So this is helping in the technical complexity. So those are the 4 different levels of complexity I want to at least try to address in corporate environments.
Fantastic recap. Thank you. I think that'll make it easier for people to digest now having had it twice. So thank you very much for that. Super interesting.